Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to
another
another
episode of.
episode.
Oh, sorry. That was like we were on.
We were on
sync there.
sync.
We were syncing to
In
another
sync.
episode of Soul Rising. Happy middle of October to you.
Oh my God, I can't believe it's already the mid-October. Isn't that wild?
Crazy. My most favorite time of the year. Love it. I just feel like a sense of, I don't know, rejuvenation. I know some people feel that in the spring, and I do feel that in the spring too. Like spring and fall are my favorite times of the year, and it's just that transition kind of energy.
So.
I think.
Yeah. It's funny because in the summer I feel more snoozy.
Me too. I feel more tired. And like I want to isolate more in the summer sometimes than I do the winter. I'm more social in the winter. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. No, I feel the same. I feel similarly.
Well, it's interesting because we talked about in the last episode we recorded here on this podcast, we talked about being similar that way and just like really being tapped into the energy of the winter. I feel like I create in the winter. I know that's a time when people kind of go in, like there's definitely a balance between the two of like going in and then putting something out there. But I feel more productive in the fall and the winter in terms of like, I guess like things I'm thinking about creating.
Yes.
Like for instance, I launched the business that I have March 4th, anytime I kind of like start something like this podcast was born, I think the end of October, early November.
Yeah.
2 years ago now.
That's true. Oh my gosh. So can you get over that?
We're coming up on our 2-year birthday.
We got to do something special for our anniversary.
Yeah, we'll have to do something special. We'll put our thinking caps on and think about what that can be. But yeah, it's like that time of year when I'm like, the things kind of come to me and I'm like brewing and then I'm like, okay, it's time. Right. And I feel like, I mean, there's probably a lot of people that feel that way, but we often hear about that with spring and summer. And I've never really resonated with that.
No.
Yeah. Interesting. So we're here today to talk about Mabon.
Which I had never heard of until today, actually. And I was like, it was like, we should talk about this. And then I was like, I've never heard about that. And then I looked it up and it's really cool. Yeah. It's interesting.
So it's like a pagan, it's like, I'm not an expert, please no, but it's like that. It's just a season, like it's a time on the wheel in pagan tradition and culture that's called Mabon, and it marks the autumn equinox, and it kind of represents when day and night are equal, and it represents time for balance and equality and harmony.
Which is interesting because we were talking about nostalgia the last podcast, kind of helping to bring in some balance because
and it's kind of like a time celebration when, traditionally like farmers would have come together and gathered, that kind of heartier foods like.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was a time to harvest because of the winter. So you would always store your food and keep it because nothing would grow in the
right. Like winter. This is the time of like canning. This is when we can our stuff. Like this is the time. Have you ever canned things? Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't. I want to.
You will.
I had a roommate who, yeah. I want to can. I want to do pickles. I want to do all these things.
We've done pickles before. And we've done this a couple years ago, Scott and I. We haven't done it in a few years, but there was a couple years there where we had like a when we didn't own our house and we lived in a rental, so we like couldn't like dig up the ground, and plant vegetables and things. So we had these like really big buckets. They were like ice cream buckets that we got from the like local ice cream place. They're like this big, right? Like huge. Yeah. And then we would plant things in there. So we had tomato plants and we had cucumbers and squash and like all kinds of good stuff. And then I remember one year we had like our harvest of peppers, red peppers and green peppers was like 75. And it's like, what the hell are we going to do with 75 peppers? So we did like a lot of canning, or we like cut them all up and froze them and things like that, making like pasta sauce and salsa and all those things. I feel like this time of year like makes me encourages me to get back to basics and simplicity,
Yes,
which may be why it's a time
I
when I
can see
feel more
that.
creative because it gives me the space because things are more simple.
Mm-hmm.
Gives me the space to like have the capacity to bring in something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know.
Yep.
It's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of like looking at a website. We both like randomly, intuitively brought up the same website when we were
Wink.
looking stuff up. Mabonhouse.co. And so it says like modern Mabon celebrations are a time to give thanks for the abundance of Mother Earth, both literally and spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good time to reflect on the wheel of the year, recognizing your successes and letting go of the things that did not serve you during the past 12 months.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, that last little part of the wheel.
Letting go.
It's not the last part of the wheel. We've got to get through, Halloween and
Mm-hmm.
then moving into Yule.
You will.
Yeah. So I think a really cool thing to talk about would be setting intentions at this time of year
Mm-hmm.
and like as a way to celebrate this time of year for our listeners and for us. Like, how would we celebrate this time of year? What are some things that like intuitively come up? I know we're going to talk about too, like things that we are maybe consciously going to release or try to
Let
release.
go. Yeah.
Is there something that you do in the autumn that is like something you do every year? Like maybe you go to like pick apples or go to the pumpkin patch?
No, I mean I'd love to go. I really want to go to the pumpkin patch this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um I mean every autumn I feel like I'm very into like spooky season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very into that and I'm getting spooky books,
Yeah.
watching spooky old movies, new movies.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be something that I've just done every year.
Mm-hmm.
Even when, like, even at the beginning of September, I was like, it's almost spooky season, you know.
Yeah.
So
Me
just
too.
getting ready for it. Yeah, it's exciting. Um, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything really that I do. Maybe consciously,
Yes.
unconsciously. I feel like um, I feel like unconsciously, maybe this is just human nature. I'm not sure. I'm not a psychologist. So if you're a psychologist, maybe let us know. Is this something that happens?
Yeah.
But I do feel like it is a time, one of, yes, like letting go, but also just kind of like we just talked about is stocking up um,
Mm-hmm.
on things or foods. Or I think every year we like to do like um, make like a stew when it gets colder. There's certain things that we
Mm-hmm.
just like to do. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's consciously. There's like things that I don't really think I do, but I think unconsciously,
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like it's just a time of like letting go and releasing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was contemplating this yesterday. So I know that we said we're in the middle of October. We are when this episode comes out. That's where
Mhm.
you'll be listening. But we are actually at the end of September. So yesterday was the autumn equinox, and so something that like it's like during this time of year, I think I become more intentional. So the rest of the
Mm,
year, and even through like the winter, like I will be more intentional. And maybe that's why we don't jive as much with spring and summer. Like, I don't know. I'm talking for myself here.
yeah.
Um, I might be on autopilot through certain times of the year and like not really like intentionally do things. But at this time of year, I do. And I feel like that's the key to kind of like some magic is well we know that we talk about how important intention is in the work that we do,
Mm-hmm.
like it's everything. So I feel like when you bring intention to something, it makes something special, like it makes something a ritual versus like just something that you do.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this yesterday because I'm like, it's the autumn equinox, what am I going to do? Because certain things like that, like the summer solstice, the winter solstice, not so much the spring equinox, but like definitely the fall equinox, are special days for me. And I always try to mark it by like intentionally doing something, and normally it's like a walk,
Mm.
and it's like no different than I do
Right.
any
I
other
remember you
day.
talking about, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like something about like I'm intentionally doing this today
Mm-hmm.
to bring forward this new season.
Yes.
And that in itself makes it feel magical to me, even though I might not be doing anything different than any other day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think ritual is like just like something that you just put intention in, and then therefore it makes it special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you think about Christmas, like, or gift giving, say, like you might like gift giving, yes, special, but there's something about like, because of the ritual that's associated with like gift giving at Christmas, it like feels different than just like if somebody gave you a gift otherwise. I got, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like
absolutely.
there's
It's
just
or
something to it.
on a birthday when you're blowing out the
Yes.
candles on your cake.
Right, because it's a ritual
It's
and
a
there's
ritual.
intention.
You're
So
intentioning,
you could,
you're putting a wish out there. You're.
right. And you could do that today, and maybe it wouldn't be as ingrained in you as something really specific
Mm-hmm.
and special. But I think that's the beauty of like spirituality sometimes, is like, and like I said, we said in the last episode, like spirituality is just about reconnecting to yourself. So I think you could make any day special. You could make anything a ritual if you just took a moment to
Yeah.
think of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have like you can kind of see there's a little bit of an altar behind me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that for me is adding to that has become a bit of a
Special.
yeah, it's special. I'm creating
Yeah.
something. I'm putting things that mean something to me. I've got family photos up there. I've got little spell bottles
Mm-hmm.
and gifts. There's a
Right.
candle up there. Yeah, so I've just kind of been adding to that a little bit. Sometimes I like take it away, or I'm like, you're gonna go and sit on the dresser. You're gonna come here. Adding
Mm-hmm.
to it. Um, create maybe mixing up the energies a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, there's something about that. Intention is like this magical thing I think we should contemplate more in our life. I'm
Mm-hmm.
even thinking of like, say, like if I bought myself a nice new sweater versus if someone gave me the exact same sweater, like it would become more meaning, like it would be like my favorite sweater if somebody
Yeah,
else gave
there'd
it
be
to me
meaning
versus like
behind
it would
it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's like what this time of year brings forward for me, is just like, and maybe it's just because for so many decades of my life, I'm like, this is my favorite time of year. We're gonna go pumpkin carving.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to the apple orchard. Like, and it's
Yeah.
just like there's so much ritual
Yeah.
infused in it that it just becomes this larger than life. Like, it's the most magical time of the year.
Yeah, yeah, we love it.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of ritual, I guess there's the thing that Alex and I have been doing every year is we always make sure we carve a pumpkin.
yeah,
Always.
yeah.
And we're always on the front porch, handing out candy.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a very family oriented neighborhood. And so we're always, handing out candy to the kids with our neighbor downstairs. So it's
I love
fun.
it.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. So
Mm-hmm.
we do little
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Or there's a really amazing street near us, like probably like a 5 or 10 minute walk, I can't remember, but every year there's this one street and all the houses go all out, and they call it Nightmare on the street. Nightmare
Mm-hmm.
on street
Yeah,
name. And then there's also another house, and every Christmas, Halloween, I think those are the only two ones, but they decorate their house to the nines. So we always
love it.
go, we usually sometimes go for a walk with our neighbors or just ourselves, and we go and see the house that's all decked out.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
I
little
love it.
things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott and I've always like been big on like doing things like that, or like making something a tradition. That's something that somebody recently pointed out to me. They're like, you have these traditions that you always do. Like, say, for instance, like every August, it's just
Mhm.
become ingrained. My husband knows it. He's going to take me to a sunflower field, and it's a new one every year. So it's like
Yeah,
something we do. We're
wow.
like, where can we go this year? And it's just like something that's become special, and we do it. And like, I didn't realize that like not everyone does things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's always been something that's really important
Mm-hmm.
to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, yeah, before we had kids, we would carve a pumpkin together. Like,
You
we
two
didn't have
kids.
to, we just wanted to.
Yeah.
Or like, since we've met, we've taken a picture, a family picture of
Yep.
each other, of
Aw.
both of us in front of the Christmas tree.
Yep.
So like our first ever Christmas together, we're sitting in front of the tree with our two cats. One is in spirit now, and then but the other one is 20. She just celebrated her 20th birthday in September.
Happy birthday, Sunny.
Right? Yes, Elsa. And so we're like sitting there with Elsa and Buddy and the two of us,
Or
like,
Buddy, sorry.
yeah.
I say Sunny.
And we're Sunny is our boy cat
Oh,
that
your boy
came
cat.
in.
Okay, okay, sorry.
Yeah, Buddy passed, and then like a week later, Sunny came into our lives. And we didn't plan for Sunny to come in our lives, but we say that Buddy sent him.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, but we're like I've just always done that. So now I have like a picture frame on the wall that literally has 20 Christmas photos like every single year, whether it's like cats or children, right?
I
Like
love it.
it's just, and I love it.
Yeah.
That's important to me. Picture taking is very important to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I have a
Sometimes people will make fun of me for it, but I'm like,
No, I think it's great. I have a friend, shout out Rob, and him and his partner, they always take pictures during the holidays.
yes.
And it's always something hilarious and like really
Hmm.
funny with their pets. And like
Hmm.
I've collected them, I've like accumulated so many, and like I've always put them on the tree as like ornaments.
Hmm.
So it's just like really, it's like a
I
nice
love it.
thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That I feel like. So if you do that and you send cards to people, maybe you're still on their Christmas tree. You never know.
You
Or,
never know.
yeah, whatever they celebrate over the holidays, maybe you're there celebrating with them. Yeah.
I do that too. So like my kids are pretty much used to it now, but every year, mid to late October, we walk. We used to go to like a portrait studio and do this, but then around I don't know, it's been like probably at least 7, 8 years where we've just gone outside and taken our own photos.
Yeah.
Last that fly again. Last year it was just on the trail by our house, and we just had a tripod, put our phone on it, put the timer on, stood and took a
Yeah.
picture, and they're really nice. But like the kids are used to it. I'm like every single year I have a photo of them like every single fall from the time they were born.
Yeah.
Right. And they're kind of like, oh, mom. And I'm like, one day you're going to look at those and you're going to be so happy that you have
You
them. And you can see everybody at
yeah. You're
every
gonna
year of their
want
life.
that. You're
You're
gonna
going to
want
want
yeah,
them. Yeah.
memories.
That one day, the photos will be the only kind of thing you have left of a person, maybe. And I'm just really feeling that with my grandparents now that they're both in spirit, and all of their photo albums. Like that's my grandfather was the picture taker and he
Mm.
was the documenter. So before he got really sick with Alzheimer's, he took the time and intentionally put all those pictures, like going back to like the mid 1850s of ancestors, in photo albums, and wrote who they are and the dates, and like they were all detailed, and like what a beautiful gift. I think of that sometimes like a legacy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because now we can look back and we have, because that was knowledge that went with him,
Yeah.
right? But he made sure to write it all down. So yeah, I think this time of year and like moving into the holiday season, like Christmas is that kind of like ritual time
Yeah.
that a lot of people do that. I think it's just making things special, but
Mhm.
that's about slowing down,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Slowing down and
Sorry.
like doing things intentionally and special.
Hmm.
So we're going to do a card pull today for like this season.
Yeah.
But before that, we kind of talked about maybe coming up in the moment with couple, like two to
Mm.
three things that maybe we are areas of life that maybe we would like to
Let go of.
release
Hmm.
or change in
Hmm.
some way.
Hmm.
So let's think of that out loud. If you have something you can like go, no pressure.
I know, right? I mean, expectations is always something that I feel like my own
Yes.
expectations of
So like
myself.
just kind of being in the moment and allowing yourself to just
Mm-hmm.
be.
Mm-hmm. Not
Mm-hmm.
try not to worry so much about like
Mm-hmm.
what hasn't even happened yet. Yeah, being confident in my decisions and
Mm-hmm.
choices. And like speaking up more, I think for myself is something that
Mm-hmm.
I'm just working on. I feel like I've been listing a bunch of like maybe they I guess they all kind of go together.
Yeah.
Um but that's something I think that I'm really trying to work on. I mean, I have been
Mm-hmm.
in therapy, so shout out to my lovely
Mm-hmm.
therapist. Um
Yep. That helps for sure for
mhm.
everybody. Um, Okay, so it's like a kind of a combination for me of like things that I might be actively trying to release and things that I'd like to be more intentional about because I think this time of year is about balance. So it's about, and it's all connected,
Yeah.
right? Because like one might allow you to release something, one might allow you to become more intentional about it. For me, like number one thing that comes in for me in the moment is like continuing to develop a deeper connection to my body.
Mm.
That's a lifelong journey for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel that one.
I tend to be very ungrounded in general.
Mm.
Like I'm grounded in my like I think I'm grounded in my convictions. Like I know what I believe in. I know what's truth for me and I'm not afraid to like live by that,
Mhm.
but like I
Mhm.
am very much like always like we talked about with the books in the last was it the last episode? Yeah, the last episode we recorded about like sometimes escaping.
Mm.
So it's like a double-edged sword. Like my love of books gives me that safety and security and expands my knowledge and my consciousness,
Mhm.
but also I have to be careful because sometimes it's an escape mechanism to keep me
Mm.
from living life,
Yeah.
right? Like in this physical. So for me, I think it's like taking action. It's like, yes, there's like so many things that I have in my mind, and there's so many things that I want to continue to learn, but also giving myself permission to like take a moment to integrate the things that I've already learned, right? So
Mhm.
it's like a common theme that's been coming up for me a lot. It's like, okay, you've read and learned all about breath work, but how about you start practicing
Do
breath
you
work? You
like
know, like this is
integrate
what my
that
guides are
into
saying.
your
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
how about you start doing something
Yeah.
with some of the stuff you're learning, like intentionally. So that's what I
Yeah.
mean by like deeper connection to body,
Mhm. Mhm.
um,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just really, really listening to my body.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, oh, 100%.
and I feel like this will connect to number two, which is to intentionally um focus on gratitude more. Like I
Mm.
know that I'm grateful, but I feel like really working with like a consistent gratitude practice or ritual
Mhm.
is something that I'd like to do more this fall.
Yeah.
So maybe it might be like a gratitude journal where every day when with my coffee, like we don't have to add like sometimes I think people are like, "Oh, I can't add one more thing to my life." But it's like I'm already sitting with my coffee, right? Rather than scrolling on my phone, what if I just pick up a pen and wrote something down for 5 minutes? Like it's not really adding something to my life. It's
No.
just like kind of using your time different. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that I'm going to, I will do that is what I'm saying. And the third thing that comes forward to me is like working. And like I said, the last two connect to this, like they're all
Mm.
connected, just like yours were working on feeling like I always have to rush. I hate rushing. It's my one of my biggest triggers in life is like I feel rushed or somebody's making me
Yep.
feel rushed.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It like sends me in like a panicky kind of tailspin.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And it's like, what are you really rushing for? You know, like I was reading, I don't know who said this. I was reading somebody's book and they were saying like, you know, you're at the grocery store and the person in front of you is like chatting to the cashier and they're like digging out like each dime like one at a time to pay,
Yes.
and it's like you're sitting back there and you're like ragey, and it's like, who are you rushing for
Yeah.
though? Like
Yeah.
what is so important that you can't just like
Mhm.
be
Take a
in the
pause.
moment, like
Like
just
it's
take a
okay.
pause for a moment.
Yeah.
Like what's like I understand if you're like rushing to work or something like that, but like for the most part, it's just we're back there impatient and getting
Yeah.
ourselves worked up. But
Yeah.
like why?
But even then, like rushing to work, like I find myself sometimes and I'm like, why am I rushing? One, I'm usually always early.
Yep.
Always, always, always. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like people, a lot of my coworkers are often, and this is no shade. I think it's just, become part of the office environment or the culture. They're just
Yep.
late.
Yep.
So if why am I like gonna worry myself for rushing? And even if I am late, I'm late. I'll let somebody know. It's not the end of the world. It's not
It's
like it's
not
a
the end of the
constant
world.
thing,
Yep.
So I've got to, and I always have to remind myself too of that, of like, I feel rushed, but then it's like, whatever, Erin, you'll get there when you get there,
Yep. Yeah.
which is like a really big
I
metaphor
mean,
for
yeah,
life.
like if it's not if you're not like intentionally like rolling out of bed 5 minutes before you're supposed to be at work every day,
Yeah.
like if
You
it's just
know,
like something that happens once in a while and
yeah.
it's for unforeseen
Yeah,
circumstances and you
yeah, yeah.
can't control the weather or the traffic, you just can't.
You know,
So like, yeah, I feel like so
if you
many of us are
overslept that
just
one day, or you're just a bit slower that day, it's okay.
yeah,
We're in such a we're always just in this like
We're
often
always in a rush.
in a rush.
Yeah.
It's just the yeah. So
I love the connection too, because I said like this time of year is I feel like when I kind of get more intentional
mhm.
and maybe slow, like it's like a slowing down in the sense of like more gratitude, less rush, but that actually makes me feel more productive. Isn't that interesting how that works? Maybe
Yeah,
there's some
yeah, yeah.
medicine for us there.
I know.
Let's end today.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing, by the way, in the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
Your stuff. Listeners, we encourage you to think about things that you would like to be more intentional about this Mabon season. Maybe things you want to release and work on, or just become more intentional. It might be about adding something more of something into your life, but either way, it's about finding the balance between two things. Like it's interesting too, because this time of it's like very dual, right? It's like
Yes.
light and dark, and it's there's a lot of duality, but duality is balance. Like when you're unbalanced, you're leaning too far into one side.
Yep.
It's so interesting. We're just shuffling, in case you're wondering.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a guidebook I haven't used in forever. It's called, or a deck. It's called Prairie Majesty Oracle.
Ooh, cool.
Explore your sovereign nature. So that's where I'm going. See what comes up. I think we'll see like 1 to 2 cards. We'll just see what happens. I'm going to go with, oh, that's interesting. I think I'm going to go with 2 cards today. So I'm going to
go for it.
Shuffle. I just intuitively feel like 2 wants to be spoken about today. So that's okay. Oh, well, isn't that interesting? This is very dual. This is very dual. Okay, I got to go to the guidebook just because if you're ready to speak on things, you can.
Okay.
This is a deck that I'm not super familiar with, so I want
I'm
to.
still not familiar with this one, but I
love. What are you using?
What came through? So I think I used this deck last time, but I really really love this deck. So thank you, Jessica. It is the Druid Plant Oracle deck.
Yes, cool. Okay.
I love it, and felt it was like appropriate for talking about harvest. So I pulled Primrose. I also love there's a little cauldron there. You can see some beautiful white flowers and a tree and a mountain in the distance, just for on the river for our listeners. So it says the primrose is a low growth perennial herb which is native to Western and Southern Europe and Britain. Flowering in April, it is one of the earliest, that's interesting, spring flowers. Okay.
Ooh,
it enjoys damp conditions and grows in woodlands, hedgerows, and pastures. Individual plants can live up to 25 years, and in Britain, it is now illegal to pick the flowers in the wild. Is that true? Somebody,
please let us know.
Okay. It says, because they are so small and beautiful and are among the first flowers to appear after winter. Okay. Primroses have always been associated with romantic love and new beginnings. Drawing this card may indicate that a new love is entering your life or that a fresh wave of tenderness will appear in an existing partnership. Our relationships, like our dreams, have seasons, and however long you have been together, it is still possible for a new cycle to begin. Alternatively, the card may be indicating not the dawn of a romantic love, but the rising of creativity within you. So it's interesting, though, because you talked about feeling more creative, too, even in the fall, even though this is a spring card. The primrose is the flower of the bard, and each of us has a bard within us who longs to sing the song of their soul and tell the story of their heart. Out of the cauldron of Ceridwen came 3 drops, and the changes wrought in, I'm so sorry, you guys, Gwion Bach. Gwion Bach were profound and many. Somebody is yelling at me. A third possibility is that rather than love or creativity, this card is pointing to a birth of wisdom. So just a lot about new beginnings, right? Which is what we talked about. So it says rebirth is one of the rebirth is one of the key words.
Well, we talked about endings and beginnings,
Yeah.
duality, how this might not be traditionally thought of as rebirth. We think about the spring. This is when things kind of die and go into hibernation. For me, at least, and it sounds like for you, this is a time when things are
Things of
being
when
created.
we come alive, when we create. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like that card.
I love that too. I decided to just go with one of those cards. I decided to just go with the first one that I pulled, as that one felt like the one for us today. It's a deer. It says a deer mouse.
Ooh.
And it says nest on
I love
it.
that.
I love that the card also has leaves on it that are yellow and orange, and nesting.
Yeah.
And so what the guidebook says is, let's talk self-talk. When challenging situations or feelings arise, is your inner dialogue critical or reassuring?
Aww.
How do you instinctively treat yourself?
Ah.
It's impossible to avoid difficult situations in life. We go through them and witness others doing the same. Think back to a time when you were supported and encouraged. When you were supportive and encouraged a friend or relative, are you treating yourself with the same care? This brings through a need for mindfulness, all the things that we've talked about lately. Listen to this. It says, allow the deer mouse presence to represent your vulnerability, your inner child, and your need for tenderness. If you wouldn't say it to deer mouse, think twice before saying it to yourself.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, deer mouse always asks us to use our power for the uplifting of everyone. There is no hierarchy or of importance in a truly free society. Love it. I love that. So yeah, how are you treating yourself? Maybe you're it's interesting because we were talking about things we might be releasing or bringing more things into. Maybe there's a focus there, a creation, but also with like maybe the thing that's keeping us from feeling that rebirth or creation is how we're speaking to ourselves, right? Our sense of worthiness. That's kind of what I'm taking from these two messages together.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
And I feel like it goes so beautifully with our episode today because we've talked about the duality of this season, and even like when we were trying to answer the questions through the lens of what are we trying to release, and we were like but as soon as I said what about being more intentional about, then things to release and things to embrace came forward. So I think that's like a message about it doesn't have to be one or the other.
No,
it's
well,
like
one can't exist without the other. Balance,
right?
Duality.
It's really about balance. So I think that was purposeful. Why we might have struggled when we were like, what do we want to release, and we're like but they came forward as soon as we're like, okay, what do we want to focus on? Then it becomes clear what needs to go. If you're focusing on what you want to happen, creation, then what is keeping you from that shows up. And so that's like the deer mouse is maybe what is keeping you from. Yeah, I love that, from the creation.
From the creating part.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, our listeners. We hope that you also
listening.
Thought about what you want to create, release, your intentions.
And let us know what your favorite autumn, Halloween, moving into Christmas traditions are. We'd love to hear if you have like rituals or things you do every single year. We would love to know. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.
Don't forget to like, comment on what you would like to hear us talk about next, and subscribe.